Does one AFC West receiver coming off an injury represent a nice buying opportunity right now? Did one AFC South backfield go from clear-cut to muddy with a new addition? And how high is too high to draft Najee Harris in Footballguys drafts? Plus, the six-time Footballguys Players Championship League winner Jeff Zedlar will drop by to talk about his shocking strategy he employed in one Footballguys draft this week, and, of course, much more. We've got a great show for you. Farrell Elliott is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
I can't stand the pressure. I've seen greater men than me, the lesser make out of the messer. Take the hit for the just 'cause it was right there in the dresser, so easy. Pick me up, kiss me, and you squeeze me.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now listening to the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, presented by MyFFPC.com, with your hosts Eric Balkman and Farrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here's Eric Balkman and Farrell Elliott. And all I hear is just white noise when they're speaking. There's too much river from the voices in my head.
Thank you so much for check out all their music at quiethollers.com. Greetings and salutations, all you Balkaholics and Farrelliacs. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, presented by MyFFPC.com. I am, as always, your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman, and my co-host is indeed the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Farrell Elliott. Farrell, this is 2 Thursdays in a row that you and I are getting together to talk shop here on the HSFF Hour. How did everything go with the Quiet Hollers in Louisville at Headliners last Friday?
Wonderful evening, Balky. The evening started, and I could tell first couple of tunes that the band hadn't played in a year or so. I could get a feel for it. But there is a hit off the Amen Breaks album because called Broken Guitar. And that song always seems to bring the crowd together. And from there, the concert went to a new height. And it was an enjoyable evening. And I spent it in the very back row selling all the merch, and it was all gone but a couple of CDs when the show was over. So it was a blast.
Well, good for you. Farrell Elliott, NFL agent and merch salesman, as it were. So congratulations to you.
You got to get the T-shirt.
Well, we're gonna take the
I live to sell the T-shirts. That's all I really want to do. Is just sell the T-shirt.
You should get a T-shirt that says that, Farrell. That's art right there. I live to sell the T-shirts. We're going to try to take the show to new heights tonight. It's going to be a very interesting show. We're going to talk about where the draft value lies amongst the Cardinals' backfield, whether Amon-Ra St. Brown can be a late-round difference maker for FFPC redraft players, and then Jeff Zedlar is going to join us to talk about some of the Jets, Packers, and Dolphins, those specific teams, the players that he likes, doesn't like in there. But we're really going to get into game theory here with him tonight. And he has a very interesting approach, an approach that I think not a lot of people have taken in Footballguys drafts or main event drafts before. We're going to get his thoughts on that and how he exhibited that strategy this past week.
Well, I was in that draft, Balky, and he's got a lot of explaining to do. He really does. And I'm very anxious. I'm very, very anxious to hear his explanation of his activities. So, it'll be good.
It will be good. We're excited to do it. Just as a reminder, there is 11 days left. That's right, just 11 days to not only get yourself in the FFPC Pros versus Joe's drawing, but to save $100 on your first FFPC main event team. May 31st is the last day you can do it. 11 days to go on that. And remember, $400 off each additional team, too. The 2021 Footballguys Players Championship is underway. $500,000 for first, $100,000 for second. And don't forget, you can get a free $35 FFPC credit when you join right now and draft your team before July 15th. So if you join by June 30th, draft your team by July 15th, you'll get a free $35 team credit, and we'll do that up to 3 times for you on that. The inaugural best ball tourney, this is a big announcement from the FFPC this week. It is underway. Leagues have already filled a $100,000 grand prize in a $550,000 prize pool, only $125 entry. So definitely check that out. The first ever best ball tourney that the FFPC has ever launched, and it is underway right now. Dynasty Startups obviously going strong, and don't forget about the 2021 best ball drafts that start at just $5 for the Cinco de Best Ball at myffpc.com, and get in on all those checkered flag drafts that are going on at kffsc.com right now. Don't forget, I'll be drafting Memorial Day night, trying to defend the belt. If you want to take me on, and trust me, it's not a high bar to jump over, join the KFFSC checkered flag and take your shot at $5,000 there for the grand prize. Thanks to Football Guys, Draft Sharks, NBC Sports Edge, and Rob for tonight's Fantasy Flash. Let's kick things off in the Emerald City, where Adam Schefter is reporting Joe Burrow is, quote, all systems go for week 1. I'm going to butcher this guy's name. This is the doctor that was talking about it. Dr. Neil Elatrash. It's a terrible name for a doctor. It's a terrible name for anybody. But I think that's what it was. But anyway, he was working with the Bengals and Joe Burrow's rehab. Burrow said that he before this, he said he always expected to be ready for week 1. Well, you take what the players say about their injuries with kind of a grain of salt. But we may not see him in the preseason, and we might see him, the first time we see him back might be week 1 of the season. So, Farrell, you look at this, the Bengals eschewed offensive tackle and offensive line in the first round, didn't get Penei Sewell. They went with Jamar Chase, who joins Tyler Boyd. No A.J. Green, obviously, on that team anymore. But you look at, and T. Higgins, obviously, one of the other pass catchers that Joe Burrow is going to have. He was one of the quickest to get rid of the ball last year and was very successful when he did, Farrell. Are you at all concerned about drafting Joe Burrow as like maybe QB9, QB10, when you may not see him until the real bullets start flying in week 1?
No, and I think he's a very, very big bargain for where he's going. You know, you run him, you put him as a running mate with Justin Herbert, and you've got to pay a lot more to get Herbert. These guys were neck and neck statistically. Burrow had just come off that late October game before injury against Cleveland, which I think was another Cincinnati Bengals loss. And Balky, that's the Queen City of Cincinnati. But you know, this kid was truly playing like a king against Cleveland, over 400 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. He rushed for another touchdown, and you could see it all coming together for fantasy players before he had to go on injured reserve. So it was a terrible loss for the season. I would have absolutely no problem drafting this player, and you know, I haven't yet, and I probably should. So I'm going to start looking at that. But yeah, exciting times for the Cincinnati offense. Can they score enough points to win some games? Maybe they can.
Yeah, they might be getting in some shootouts this year with that high-powered offense. Yes. To Joe Burrow, want to give a shout-out to Fantasy Mojo, Darren Armani, FantasyMojo.com, who we get all this ADP data from. Joe Burrow is going at quarterback 10 at the 10:06 right now in Football Guys drafts over the last 5 days. That is right behind Jalen Hurts and Aaron Rodgers. It is right ahead of Tom Brady and Matthew Stafford. Not only did I offend all our Cincinnati listeners, Farrell, by calling it the Emerald City, I offended all the listeners we have in Seattle, too, which is indeed the Emerald City. So just both ends of the spectrum tonight. Just everybody tuning out. Hopefully they'll stay aboard and hear my next faux pas coming up. Cortland Sutton, let's go to Denver. The Mile High City. I think I'm ready. I'm right on that one.
You're back on track.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Cortland Sutton on Monday said the, quote, game plan is for him to be ready for training camp. Zach Stevens on Twitter was the source of this little nugget. Cortland Sutton did not play in week 1 last year because of a shoulder injury. And then when he came back in week 2, he tore his ACL. Ended the year with 3 catches for 66 yards on just 31 snaps. Now, if he is ready for the start of training camp, that is 10 months after he tore the ACL. And obviously ACL repairs and rehabs seem to be going quicker and quicker these days, and certainly it would not surprise anybody if Sutton was back by the start of training camp. He's already been running pass routes. This happened a couple of months ago. And Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater, maybe Aaron Rodgers, is going to be his quarterback this year, Farrell. I'm going to tell you this right now. I don't know if you have any Sutton shares at all. He is going as wide receiver 30 at the end of the 6th round. It's right behind your boy Chase Claypool and Odell Beckham, right ahead of Juju Smith-Schuster and DJ Chark. I would imagine if you have the choice between Claypool and Sutton, you're always going to go Claypool. But what if Claypool is gone and Sutton's staring you in the face at the end of the 6th round? Does that seem like good value to you?
Great value. I've seen him in the 7th and occasionally the 8th, and I try to target him all the time. Cortland Sutton, it is just such a huge disappointment not to have this player on the field in 2020. What a glorious 31 snaps it was. He is, he's everything you want in a player, Balky. He doesn't time that 40. He's a 4.5 to 4.6 guy, but he is so explosive, and his vertical it proves that. He jumped out of the gym at Pro Day. He's saddled with a developing quarterback. He's saddled with various injuries. I'm beginning to wonder if this kid is just snake bit, and I hope this year he can break out of it, because he, with Jerry Jeudy on the other side, with the tight end Fant, this is a beautifully run offensive team. We might get to talk about the running backs later. I love this Bronco team. If the quarterback can't get it together this year, and maybe it will be Teddy. We got a warm spot in our heart for Teddy here in Louisville, Kentucky, and we want things to happen great for him and Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton is going to deliver that for whoever plays quarterback for the Broncos. And if they can't get this kid the ball, they don't really deserve to be a starting quarterback in the NFL.
It's interesting because Noah Fant is going, granted, this is, tight end premium FFPC, but Noah Fant on his ADP right now is at the 605, Sutton going at the 612. They are the first Broncos pass catchers off the board going in the same round, even though they play different positions. Paris Campbell. Now let's talk about him here for a second, Farrell, because this is a guy I've grabbed late in a few drafts so far. Stephen Holder on Twitter announced that Paris Campbell said he's 100% recovered from his season-ending knee injury that also took place in Week 2 last season. He has indeed been cleared to practice for Indianapolis. Now, the 1 week he was healthy, unlike Sutton, he did not miss Week 1 because of a shoulder injury. Week 1 last year, 9 targets. He caught 6 of them for 71 yards. He is 23 right now. He turns 24 in July. And this, again, almost a full year to recover from this ligament tear. But this is not the only injury that Paris Campbell's had. In fact, he's been kind of snakebit, as you said, with Sutton over the course of his career with a lot of nagging injuries. 4 different injuries, in fact, in his rookie year that culminated in a season-ending broken foot injury. Now, you look at where Campbell's going right now, and I think there is some value here when you're looking for players, again, 16th round, 17th round. Who else are you going to find there with the upside of Paris Campbell? He's going behind Amon-Ra St. Brown and Kadarius Toney. He's going right ahead of Quintez Cephas and Russell Gage. Farrell, I love Paris Campbell in the 16th round this year. New quarterback, I get that, but we just don't know who that number 1 receiver is going to be. Could be Campbell, could be Pittman, could be Hilton. Who knows?
You've got my attention, and I think it is Pittman, and I think it is Hilton. There's going to be plenty of balls in the air here. And, yeah, Balky, you've got my attention on this player. I turned away from him when T.Y. Hilton executed his contract and stayed there in Indianapolis. And, yes, I can see benefit to choosing Paris Campbell off some of the rookies that I have been taking in that 16 round. So yeah, Paris Campbell is a player that if you don't have him on a roster and you've been doing some volume drafting, then you probably need to look that over, just like I'm going to do.
Yeah, I think Campbell, good best ball guy, too. You never know how these things can work out, and the price is indeed right for me right now. Eat your heart out, Bob Barker, because I am loving Paris Campbell in the 16th or even 17th round. We have Jeff Zedlar, the 6-time Footballguys Players Championship League winner, coming up. He is warming up in the bullpen, so to speak, right now. The last thing I want to get to before we get to Jeff, and normally I would not bring something like this up, but I feel like after seeing some of these drafts, with the FFPC, I need to. Tim Tebow is officially back in the NFL as he signed his one-year deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars, as the team announced on Twitter. Now, Tebow, 33 years old. He has not played in a regular season NFL game in nearly a decade, and he's going to take on a role besides tight end